The idea of associating prominent political figures with religious or prophetic archetypes, particularly as malevolent figures like the Antichrist, has a long history in human civilization. However, labeling someone like Kamala Harris as an Antichrist requires not only a thorough examination of religious texts, but also an understanding of the political climate, cultural perceptions, and personal beliefs that drive such a claim. In this essay, we will explore the origins of the concept of the Antichrist, its relevance to the modern political world, and why Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, has been the subject of such discussions in certain circles. We will look at how religious symbolism and political rhetoric intertwine, the specific accusations made against her, and why these claims are often unsubstantiated or rooted in fear rather than fact. The concept of the Antichrist. To understand why Kamala Harris might be labeled as an Antichrist figure by some, we must first define what the term means. The concept of the Antichrist comes from Christian eschatology, the study of end times, and is associated with a future figure who will deceive humanity, oppose Christ, and bring about great suffering before the second coming of Jesus. The term Antichrist is mentioned only a few times in the Bible, primarily in the epistles of John. 1 John 2 verse 18, "Children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Therefore we know that it is the last hour." 1 John 4 verse 3, "And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is in the world already." 2 John 1 verse 7, "For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh. Such a one is the deceiver and the Antichrist." In these passages, the Antichrist is portrayed as a deceiver who works against Christ. The Apostle John suggests that there may not be one specific Antichrist, but rather a spirit of deception that pervades the world. Over time, however, Christian theology has evolved the idea of a singular Antichrist who will appear at the end of days, as described in the book of Revelation. The Antichrist is often associated with apocalyptic visions, a ruler or leader who will rise to power, deceive many, and lead the world into chaos before Christ returns to establish peace. This figure is generally portrayed as being charismatic, influential, and able to lead people away from the true Christian faith. Historical and modern applications of the Antichrist label. Throughout history, many powerful political figures have been labeled as the Antichrist. This accusation has often been used as a tool for discrediting or demonizing political opponents. For instance, during the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther referred to the Pope as the Antichrist. Napoleon Bonaparte, Adolf Hitler, and other major historical leaders have also been associated with this figure. The label of Antichrist is generally applied to figures who hold significant power, exhibit strong influence over others, and are perceived as working against Christian values or promoting ideologies contrary to conservative Christian beliefs. It is a highly charged accusation, one that combines religious fervor with political fear. In modern times, this label has been used more frequently within certain evangelical and fundamentalist Christian circles in the United States, particularly in the context of American politics. Political leaders with progressive views on social issues like abortion, LGBTQ+ rights, and secularism have often been the target of such claims. Barack Obama, for example, was accused of being the Antichrist by some far-right Christian groups during his presidency. These accusations were generally baseless but fueled by his progressive policies, his popularity, and the fact that he symbolized change and diversity in American leadership. Similarly, Hillary Clinton was often demonized by conspiracy theorists and extreme religious groups, who sometimes painted her as a morally corrupt figure with apocalyptic significance. Given this context, it is unsurprising that Kamala Harris, as the first woman of color to be vice president and a liberal figure in American politics, has also been subjected to these types of accusations. The question, however, is whether there is any merit to such claims, or if they are merely a reflection of broader societal anxieties. Kamala Harris in American politics. Kamala Harris made history in 2020 when she became the first woman, first African American, and first Asian American to serve as Vice President of the United States. Born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, Harris's rise to political prominence has been marked by her career as a prosecutor, district attorney, and senator from California. She is widely recognized as a progressive figure in American politics, advocating for criminal justice reform, healthcare access, climate change action, and the protection of civil rights. Her progressive policies, particularly her stances on issues like abortion rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and racial justice, have made her a target for conservative critics, particularly those from fundamentalist Christian backgrounds. Some of these critics view her support for such policies as antithetical to Christian teachings, particularly concerning abortion. In some evangelical circles, abortion is viewed as a fundamental moral issue, with proponents seeing it as equivalent to murder. For them, any political leader who supports reproductive rights is automatically in opposition to God's law. Similarly, support for LGBTQ+ rights is sometimes seen as promoting a lifestyle that they believe contradicts biblical teachings. For those who hold these views, Harris's political stance is seen as evidence that she is working against Christian values. However, it is important to note that the United States is a secular democracy, and while religion plays a significant role in the lives of many Americans, political leaders are bound by the Constitution to represent the rights and interests of all citizens, not just those who hold particular religious beliefs. Harris's policy positions align with the principles of equality, freedom, and justice that are enshrined in the American legal system. To accuse her of being the Antichrist based on these positions requires a significant leap of logic and is rooted more in religious extremism than in reality. The role of conspiracy theories. Another factor that plays a significant role in the labeling of Kamala Harris as the Antichrist is the rise of conspiracy theories, particularly those promoted by far-right movements like QAnon. QAnon is a baseless conspiracy theory that claims a secret cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles controls the world and that Donald Trump is fighting against them. QAnon has gained significant traction among certain segments of the population, particularly those who are distrustful of mainstream media and governmental institutions. Within this context, figures like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and other Democratic leaders are often portrayed as being part of this supposed deep state conspiracy. The idea that these leaders are part of a satanic plot to undermine Christian values and bring about global chaos aligns with the Antichrist narrative. For QAnon adherents, the line between political opposition and spiritual warfare is blurred, leading to the demonization of those in power who do not align with their worldview. It is important to recognize that conspiracy theories like QAnon are based on misinformation, fear, and a desire to explain complex political and social issues in simple, binary terms. The labeling of Kamala Harris as the Antichrist within this framework is not grounded in any factual or theological basis, but rather in a narrative that seeks to vilify those who challenge traditional power structures. Religious and cultural bias. Another layer to the accusation that Kamala Harris is an Antichrist figure is the role of religious and cultural bias. Harris's background as a woman of mixed race, with a Hindu mother from India, has contributed to the discomfort that some conservative Christian groups feel toward her. In a country where white evangelical Christianity has long held a position of cultural dominance, the rise of diverse leaders like Harris can be perceived as a threat to the established social order. In some cases, this discomfort is expressed through religious language, such as labeling Harris as the Antichrist or suggesting that her policies are part of a larger, demonic agenda. These accusations are often more reflective of underlying racial and cultural biases than of any genuine theological disagreement. Moreover, Harris's identity as a woman in power is significant. Throughout history, women who have risen to positions of authority have often been demonized, particularly in patriarchal societies. The Bible itself contains stories of powerful women who are portrayed as dangerous or evil, such as Jezebel, a figure who has been associated with manipulation and idolatry. Harris, as a strong, progressive woman in a position of political power, challenges traditional gender roles, which can provoke hostility from those who hold conservative views on gender and leadership. A critical examination. When examining the claim that Kamala Harris is the Antichrist, it is essential to separate fact from fiction, fear from reason, and religious belief from political rhetoric. The label of Antichrist is an extreme accusation, one that is rooted in Christian eschatology and has historically been used to demonize political opponents. There is no theological or factual basis to support the claim that Harris fits the description of this apocalyptic figure. Instead, the accusations against her stem from a combination of political opposition, religious extremism, and cultural biases. Harris's policies on abortion, LGBTQ+ rights, and other social issues are in line with progressive values and the principles of equality and justice enshrined in American democracy. While these policies may be at odds with the beliefs of certain conservative Christian groups, they do not make her an Antichrist figure. Furthermore, the rise of conspiracy theories like QAnon has contributed to the spread of misinformation and fear, leading to the demonization of political leaders like Harris. These conspiracy theories are not grounded in reality and serve to divide the nation by promoting fear and distrust. The question of whether Kamala Harris is an Antichrist is ultimately rooted in religious and political extremism, not in any factual or theological evidence. The concept of the Antichrist, while significant in Christian eschatology, has been misused throughout history to vilify political leaders and opponents. In the case of Kamala Harris, the label is used by some as a way to express their opposition to her policies and to tap into broader fears about cultural change and the role of religion in public life. Rather than engaging in such extreme rhetoric, it is important to approach political discourse with reason, understanding, and respect for diverse perspectives. Kamala Harris, like any political leader, should be judged based on her policies, actions, and leadership rather than on unfounded accusations rooted in fear and religious extremism. By doing so, we can foster a more constructive and inclusive political environment that respects the rights and beliefs of all citizens.